Hello dear participants of the PERSIST event. First of all, I wanted to say that I am very sorry that I cannot be with you in person this morning for this important discussion, but unfortunately a shadows meeting here in the European Parliament got in the way. Nevertheless, I wanted to take this opportunity to say a few words delivered to you, well, digitally. In a way that is very fitting, since the topic of today's event is about how digital technology can help fight cancer. This will not surprise you, but the medical landscape is rapidly changing. Medical innovation has always been important for human development, and the digitalization of the field has huge potential for patients, professionals, and society overall. However, digital technologies also come with significant risks which need to be addressed through legislation. Currently, I see two main initiatives that I would like to highlight here. First, the AI Act will set out the obligations that high-risk AI applications need to comply with in order to enter the European market, particularly in a field like healthcare, which is so closely linked to our personal well-being. I cannot overstate how important this is. People need to be able to trust AI algorithms used to facilitate the treatment, and the AI Act is the foundation for that trust. Firstly, we need to ensure human oversight of critical health decisions at all times. Secondly, AI-based systems need to be neutral and fair in order to ensure a non-biased and non-discriminatory outcome. And finally, developers of these systems have to make sure that the consumers are informed in an easily understandable, transparent way about what the system does and why it takes a certain decision or carries out a certain action. In the separate and just released directive on AI liability, we need to make clear that those who have been subject to a mistake by an AI are empowered to take these mistakes to court and can hold those responsible accountable. The second legal act we are currently discussing in the European Parliament is the European Health Data Space. With the European Health Data Space, the Commission presented a crucial, forward-looking proposal. But one thing is clear: we will only be able to overcome major health challenges of our time together. Viruses, as well as other diseases and health threats, do not stop at national borders. The new proposal puts the exchange of data for patient care as well for research and development purposes in Europe on a new footing. For patients, this means direct control over the digital health data and a possibility to share it with physicians throughout the European Union. For example, it will be easier to get help quickly in the event of an accident while on vacation. Moreover, better data collection and exchange practices bring an enormous potential for the research and development of new drugs and therapies, especially for rare diseases for which there is often not enough data available in individual member states. As healthcare goes digital, data protection and data security are of the highest importance. Patients must be able to fully trust the digital exchange of data. Highly sensitive personal health data must not end up in the wrong hands. We need to ensure that the final agreement on the EHDS meets these high requirements. If we look across the channel to the United Kingdom, we are already seeing horrible examples of the NHS losing control over the patient data they shared with companies. This is something we cannot let happen in the European Union. For both these proposals, AI and EHDS, we will in the end need a solution that both empowers research and fight against terrible diseases like cancer while safeguarding our rights as citizens. The digitization of healthcare and research can only be successful if all citizens are able to fully trust these new technologies. I believe balancing the potential and the risk of the digitization of healthcare will be one of the most critical challenges in the coming months and years for us here in the Parliament, and I am looking forward to exchanging on this important topic with many of you in the future. For now, I wish you a very successful event, and until next time, hopefully in person.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay, but obviously the differences between countries and even the layout of the keyboard between French and English is quite a problem to find the at. So it shows that these differences in the electronic devices that we have create some challenges. And these are not the only challenges, but this comes to demonstrate how difficult it might be to develop any technology in Europe and, in order to fit everyone's needs. Without further delay of this event, I would prefer that we start, and meanwhile they will deal with the technical problem to have sound in the room for the greeting that we have from the member of the European Parliament, Mr. Timo Volken, who is co-chair of the MEP interest group on access to quality healthcare. Actually, this interest group is one of the most active interest groups in the European Parliament on healthcare topics, and especially with particular focus on access to quality healthcare. And yesterday we had a very nice meeting as well here that was focusing on how we make the systems accessible, including how we make technologies more accessible to patients and doctors, of course. So obviously the challenges are on the table and obvious for each of us. Hopefully we will be able to put the greeting from MEP Timo Volken very soon, but meanwhile I would prefer that we start according to the agenda and hopefully the technical problem would be resolved. And in order to present everyone, first I will start with myself. I'm Stanimir. I'm the director of the National Patients Organization, which is one of the partners in the PERSIST project, and also I'm the Secretary General of the Patient Access Partnership, which is in cooperation with the interest group on access to quality healthcare in the European Parliament, where we have our event today, and which is hosted by the interest group on access and also namely by the MEP Timo Volken. I would like to start with the first presentation with Mr. Alberto Sanchez, who is coordinator of PERSIST, to present where we are right now with the project.
So thanks. Do you need to share my desktop or? You have the presentation there. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for giving us the floor in this amazing venue, in this very important date, in the context of the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And thanks for giving us the opportunity to present our project PERSIST and the results that we expect, because it's still ongoing, which is the added value of our project. So next one, please. This slide. So, well, my name is Alberto Sanchez. As mentioned, I'm the head of eHealth at Gradian. We are RTO, Research Technology Organization, located in Vigo, in the northwest of Spain, very close to the border with Portugal. And we are more than 130 engineers, plus more than 20 support staff. And what we do basically is applied research. We aim to be the innovation partner of the companies in our ecosystem and take research from basic research to from the university to the industry in this process, supporting companies in this process. We work mainly in 3 areas: connectivity, security, and intelligence. And particularly in the eHealth area, our team works in intelligence. So we develop artificial intelligence models for any kind of application related to the medical or healthcare environment. We have been the coordinators of this ACE 2020 project, and we are very proud of it. It was a very important milestone for our company, for our center, because it's the first time we have been in this position as coordinator. So it was important for us. Next one, please. I wanted to start the introduction and the presentation of the project with some data, because I think it's illustrative and we can be all of us on the same page. Basically, the problem that we have addressed in PERSIST is the increasing number of cancer survivors. You may say that this is not a problem, and that's right, this is good news, but it's posing challenges to the healthcare system. We have more cancer survivors, mainly due to two phenomena. First of all, we have more cases diagnosed every year in Europe, and also, and that's the very good news, we have better therapies, we have better diagnosing tools, we can target cancer in a better way than before, and we are increasing the survival rate. And as I mentioned before, this is a challenge for the healthcare system. There is a target, a segment of the population which is increasing, the segment of the cancer survivors, and this is posing challenges because the healthcare systems have not been designed for them, and therefore is not meeting the needs of this very specific needs of this segment of the population. Next one, please. In order to address this problem, we have created a consortium of 13 partners from 10 countries all over Europe, and this includes big tech companies, SMEs, also some partners from the academia, universities, some clinical partners, and an RTO like Gradient. Next one, please. This is an overview of the project. We have been talking about the numbers already, and the first step that we took was to research and to try to understand which are the real challenges, both for professionals and the healthcare system. And regarding the professionals and the healthcare system, we observed that there is of specialists in developed countries. We have very good oncologists who are able to treat, to diagnose, to treat, and have very good outcomes in the treatment of cancer patients, but they are very few. I mean, in comparison to the growing segment of the population who has survived cancer. So they cannot monitor continuously these patients. There is poor coordination between different care levels, the specialized care levels at hospitals, the primary care level, and those physicians and healthcare professionals who are at the primary care level cannot contribute to this, to the follow-up, and because they don't have the knowledge, enough knowledge about the complex needs of a cancer survivor. Then we also analyze which are the problems for patients. We have to think that reflect that the cancer survivors are patients who have been exposed to a very stressing situation with treatments that have a high toxicity with side effects, after effects, and it has an impact in their lifestyle. After they have overcome the disease, the impact on their lifestyles is still there. They cannot work, they have a lot of big psychological stress, their emotional status is not the best, because they cannot recover, the quality of life is not like it was before the primary diagnosis of cancer. And also they are exposed to emotional stress because of the changes in their bodies. In the case, for instance, of breast cancer, maybe a breast has been removed, and then the cancer survivor, it's suffering because of that, because the body has changed. And they are fearing also the relapse of cancer. So you can imagine that the emotional status is not the best in general for cancer survivors. We are proposing a new care model based on 3 pillars, data capture, intelligence, and decision support. Regarding data capture, we have devised a model in which we will provide a mHealth application for patients in which they can collect different vital signs using the connection and integration of a smartwatch. Also, they can fill in and record some prems and prompts, patient-reported experiences, patient-reported outcomes with some questionnaires that they are filling. And also they can record a journal, some videos in which they are asked automatically with using a conversational bot, which is asking questions related to their emotional status, and they can reply and answer the questions which are recorded. The video of these answers is recorded. We will see for which is the purpose of these videos later. We have also integrated data coming from the electronic health records that contain a lot of information about the patient that is not being exploited and is not being used to generate valuable information for physicians and decision making. And also we are integrating data coming from the laboratory, from liquid biopsy, which is a non-invasive tool, to assess the status and the progression of cancer. Basically, it's a blood sample. And what we aim to find is the circulating tumor cells. It's the main biomarker that we are trying to identify. And basically, these are cells that come from the primary tumor and that can be running in the bloodstream of the patient and can potentially produce metastases. And well, this is a good marker of how it's going. Then we have the second pillar, which is intelligence. We have built a big data and artificial intelligence platform that is interoperable. And this was, I would like to remark that because it was very important to have something which was interoperable. We are merging and putting together data from very different sources, heterogeneous, different languages, different data models. It was a big challenge. And what we did was to use the FIRE standard, that allows us to make the data homogeneous, have the same data model, and this enabled the exploitation of the data by different artificial intelligence models. In particular, we developed 4 models, one for the prediction of the risk of recurrence in 5 years, also some predictive models that are able to predict which is the trajectory of the patient for certain outcomes, such as relapse, hospitalization, exitus, death. And apart from that, we developed 2 more models, one of them for analyzing the videos. You remember the journals we were talking about, and we are using computer vision to analyze the faces of the patients and try to identify signs of depressions. And also we are applying natural language techniques in order to extract patterns from their speech that can be a sign of depression or of emotional stress. And finally, the last pillar is the decision support. We have created an application, web application, or it can be also a mobile app that the clinicians are using in order to visualize the information coming from the patients, also see the trends, receive some alerts when something is going wrong, and also tailor and somehow create this personalized plan for each patient. Next one, please. This is the chronogram of the project. I don't want to go in depth on this because we don't have much time, but basically we started the project in 2020, good year to start any project in general. So it was a big challenge actually. We were working mainly in the development, the integration of the different components and the interoperability layer. And we were also working on research in order to understand the problem and provide the best solution for cancer survivors. Then in 2021, we were working in the capture of data in order to train and to develop our artificial intelligence algorithms. And also we started the clinical part of the project. We engaged some patients in usability studies, user experiences studies, in order to co-create with them the best technology. Then in 2022, we continued capturing data, we continued training our algorithms, and in September, we have concluded the technical part of the project, so the platform is already in place and working, all the services, the artificial intelligence services, and we have started with the full clinical validation of the project. I will talk later about the clinical validation. And in 2023, the project will be completed by February, and we are still working on the clinical validation and the exploitation of the results that have been generated and sustainability of the results that we have generated in the project with new business plans, business cases, and this part which is crucial as well. Next one, please. Then, I wanted to make some remarks and highlight some of the aspects of the clinical study. We are running it in 4 different hospitals in 4 countries in Europe: Belgium, Slovenia, Latvia, and Spain. We have included cancer survivors with 2 types that have overcome 2 types of cancer: breast cancer and colorectal cancer. We selected those because they are 2 of the most prevalent types of cancer, and also because they are the ones that have probably a biggest impact in the emotional status of the patient. We have talked about what breast removal implies for a patient, and also in the case of the colorectal cancer, sometimes they have to wear a stoma, which is also changing their quality of life and impacting their emotional status. We have included 160 patients and with 2 subgroups, chemotherapy and non-chemotherapy. This is, I have presented also here the different phases of the study. We trained the physicians, we then recruited the patient, and the clinical validation itself is being implemented in 2 phases. First, we included the patients for data collection and usability in order to build a technology that was acceptable and that they will adopt. And right now we are running the full clinical validation with patients. This is a single case experimental study in which the patient is itself the control group, let's say. So we are comparing the outcomes of the study before and after the intervention. So the intervention, basically, we have talked about the proposed model and the application for patients so they can collect information, and the clinical decision support system for professionals. We are measuring different dimensions, focusing mainly on the patient, the usability, user experience, acceptability of the technology, self-efficacy, empowerment, quality of life, health status, and also the lifestyle habits of the patients. And the main hypothesis, we have some others, but the main hypothesis is that participants will significantly increase their self-efficacy, will be able to participate actively in the care model, and will be more engaged and improve their emotional status. Next one, please. Basically, the impact or the expected impacts on patients and caregivers is increased self-efficacy. So they, as we have mentioned before, are part of the care model, are taking control over the disease, which is something they do, that they feel more control, that they feel they are not alone. The reduced risk of recurrence will be monitored more closely, and the interventions will be applied earlier and more in time in order to improve the clinical outcomes. And this will finally improve their health, their well-being. And one important remark is that it might make the integration back into the labor market faster, which is also important because in some cases they are in financial problems after the disease and because they haven't been able to work for a long time. So, these are some patient experiences. They are positive in general. I would say that 90% of the we will see when we have the final results, but 90% of the patients are very happy with the technology and they feel it's good for them, it's improving their health. But we also have some negative experiences, especially in the process of co-creation, because we were building the technology. There were still some bugs. The interaction models were not completely adapted to the patients, and sometimes they were struggling with the technology. They didn't like the technology, and they drop out the study. So we have to remark that and try to figure out how we can improve this process so they keep in the clinical study. And the impact on professionals, basically the increased effectiveness in cancer treatment, the empowerment of non-specialist physicians who can take part actively and reduce the burden on the specialists, on the oncologists, and also the timely intervention and prevention of side effects, of adverse events, which have a cost for the healthcare system and a big impact on the life of the patients. And I wanted to add finally some remarks about which is the added value of PERSIST. First of all, a better understanding of cancer survivorship, a better understanding of the needs of the patients that can be used as a reference and guideline in order to reshape, to re-engineer the care model and the care pathways that we are proposing for these individuals. Also, the development and validation of new technological tools that can be used in this context. They have been proved and validated in this context, but they can use and transferred to any other environment, to other diseases, to other types of cancer. Also, the patient engagement and empowerment that we have seen that has very positive implications. Also, the ecosystem of large companies, SMEs, healthcare organizations, universities, and clinical partners that have been working together. We have been a very good team. This is a photo of our last meeting, face-to-face meeting. And I think that we have achieved results that we wouldn't have achieved without this collaboration, the creation of this ecosystem, because we have shared the expertise, the know-how, the knowledge, and this has fostered innovation and has made us achieve results that we wouldn't have achieved otherwise. And finally, the exploitation of the results of the project, which can open new business models, new business plans, new technology that can be transferred, that can be incorporated to other platforms, and that could have an impact not only on cancer survivorship, on our companies, our revenues, but also on the competitiveness of the healthcare industry in Europe. So we think this is very positive and wouldn't have been possible without the support of the AIDS 2020 program. So yeah, that's all. Thanks for your attention. If you have any question, please tell me, or you have my contact details there. You can contact me afterwards.
Thank you very much. Any burning question in the room or online? Okay, since we are a bit delayed in time, probably we should continue with the next presentation, and that is from Marcela Chavez from CHU de Liège, the clinical partner of PERSIST. So Marcela, welcome.
So good morning, everybody. I am delighted to present to all of you what is the expected value of the data collected throughout the PERSIST project. So I'm going to repeat some ideas that Alberto already said to go a little bit deeper. So my name is Marcela Chavez, and I'm working at the University Hospital in the city of Liège here in Belgium. As Alberto just said, 3 other hospitals enrolled patients in the PERSIST study, one in Maribor at the University Clinic, one in Riga at the University Latvia, and one in Spain in the Hospital of Orense. I emphasize once again that PERSIST project focuses on quality of life of individuals who have completed their cancer treatment. So these individuals are named in the literature cancer survivors. So hospitals must ensure that individuals who have suffered from cancer and have completed their treatment enjoy a good quality of life. In addition, on the other side, healthcare professionals wish to tackle cancer relapse as soon as possible to avoid very heavy treatments, while offering their patients a high survival rate. So, it's okay. This is all the more true as the number of cancer survivors continues to grow, how you can see in the slide, thanks to medical advance and in a context also of personalized medicine that is more or less the state of the art of cancer. Next slide, please. So as Alberto said, why PERSIST wanted some years ago to focus in cancer survivor? Well, because even if currently we can save half of cancer patients, half of them suffer still from psychological distress and physical problems once their treatment is finished. Next slide, please. So the quality of life of a cancer survivor depends on several factors, and many others that they are in here stated in the slide, such as the physical rehabilitation, but also what they need, cancer survivor, is a quick integration in the workplace, his overall medical care, including his or her psychological care, and many other factors. Next slide. So in the following slides, I will try to explain you how PERSIST through big data. This is important. Through big data tries to address the quality of life after cancer by taking into account the psychological, but also the physical aspect of a cancer survivor. Next slide. Thank you. So you can, yeah. And again, you can click it again. So first, perhaps a little bit back. Oh, it doesn't matter otherwise. So first, the data comes directly from the patient, from a smartwatch. This smartwatch sends the data, such physical activity, so steps, blood pressure or heartbeats, to the PERSIST smartphone application, which allow the patient to easily follow. So you can click, yeah. So patient can easily follow all this data, all these parameters, such number of steps. So number of steps is physical activity, actually. The patient can also follow his or her vital parameters, such heart rate or blood pressure. So this is the first idea, the first steps to get data from patient. Next slide. In addition to patient data provided by the smartwatch, the patient were requested to provide 3 other types of data via the PERSIST application. In the mobile phone, the first data shared by the patient are his emotion and his feelings, and I will try to explain later how PERSIST managed to do that. The second type of data is patient voice intonation and facial characters, and later also I will explain the goal of that. And finally, the third type of data are answers to many questionnaires that patient were responding randomly. So next slide. So the first type of data, namely emotions and feelings of the patient, were obtained thanks to a wheel of emotions and feelings, which allow patients to report his emotions and feelings on a daily basis. And the interesting part is we could manage also to record the intensity of this feeling and emotion. So once an emotion or a feeling is chosen by a patient, the patient can move thanks to a slider and clearly indicate the degree of the intensity of this emotion or feeling. Perhaps a little bit back. So the emotion are the 8 primary emotions like anger, fear, sadness, disgust, and etc., that were proposed to the patient according to the plot trigger behavior that has been already described in several scientific literature. So the next slide. So the second type of data was collected through patient recordings using a smartphone camera. So this is very simple. This allows to identify in each patient several points of his face. So perhaps next. So there you can see, so there are several points of his face. And a machine learning associates the facial recognition, but also, you can click again, it's on also the voice and of the intonation of the voice that determine if the patient was depressed. Next, well, exactly. If the patient is depressed or not depressed, but also it can identify if there is a low versus a high severity of depression. Next slide. Finally, data obtained through questionnaires allow to collect data related to quality of life of patient to determine, for instance, anxiety, if there is any. This questionnaire also asks questions about the usability of the system and many other questions such as vision that the patient has regarding disease in general and how the degree of empowerment the patient has. Next slide. You can go next slide because these are already. So retrospective data from the medical file of hundreds of patients with breast and colorectal cancer have enabled PERSIST to assign each patient enrolling in the study, the trajectory. So next slide. Go further and a little bit, yeah. So this is the trajectory that Alberto was talking about in his presentation. So all the retrospective data from the medical files of hundreds and thousands of patients with breast and colorectal cancer have enabled the PERSIST specialist to assign to each patient enrolled in the study the trajectory that corresponds to their survival estimation. This allowed to choose a personal treatment then later on, while allowing patients to benefit from tailored suggestions adapted to their condition and trajectory. So in addition to the trajectory and the electronic health records, added to that, the data collected from the smartphone and smartwatch allow then to end up with a clinical decision support system. And this clinical decision support system is very important for physicians because they allow them then to get alerts. If there is an alert related to a patient, then the physician can decide what next steps to propose to the patient. And then optimal treatment decision with positive consequence in the quality of life of patient, but also in the health status of cancer can be decided. So this is, I hope it was clear for all of you, because PERSIST is quite several parameters. And then next, we are going to present the video showing how physicians get some support to decide the next steps in PERSIST for patients. So here is the physician enters her use number and then a password. So this is for the patient. So here you can see how the patient sees all his or her data. So they see the blood pressure, the heartbeats, I think the vitals. This is not the right one. So here you can see how the patient can move the slider for the intensity of the feeling and emotion, and how the patient can record his facial characteristic parameters. This was asked to do 2 or 3 times per week. So with many of these video, then you can finally, the machine learning can detect depression. Yeah, this is the patient part. I'm not sure that we will see the physician part. Yeah. Okay, this is the application that the physician can use either in the smartphone or in the web version. So you can see that there is all the allergy and intolerance, the previous disease of the patients, also the family history, the medication that the patient had in the past, but also the present medications. The data are also very clear, so the physician can see the historical, the medical history of the patient, all the hospitalization that the patient had in the past, and also for females, since this is a breast cancer, the menopausal status, also if the patient smoke or drink. And then there is more the specific one related to cancer, so the tumor, all the characteristic of the tumor, that the clinical and the pathological characteristic of the tumor, and which type of tumor, the stage of the tumor, so everything that is needed for a physician to take a decision related to the tumor that the patient had. And then there is all the markers, so laboratory, so blood test, tumor markers, blood test, fecal test for colon cancer, and then microsatellite instability also for cancer, colon cancer, that are very important to take a decision of the treatment. The procedure that the patient had, radiotherapy or chemotherapy, because these are related to side effects. So it's important also to have all this kind of data for the physicians. And then the physician can also see all the data that the patient sent through the smartwatch to the system. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, but probably I'll keep it for later on. And because we have also, I think, someone joining online to present, we will continue with the program, so we don't mix the time of everyone because of the delay here and the technical problem. So I would prefer now that we go to Mr. Tim Flynn, the coordinator of the Cancer Survivorship AI for Well cluster.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, so look, thank you. My name is Tom Flynn. I work for TST Research Innovation based in Dublin. I am part of the FADE project, which is probably the project which correlates to a lot of work we're doing in cancer research and cancer survivorship. So on behalf of the cluster and all its members, I'm very pleased to be here to thank you and also to give this presentation. So the presentation is that we don't work in silo, and what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit today about what some of the work we're doing and where we're going and what we've achieved to date. And I'll literally just talk to you and explain to where we are. So where we are is the AI for cancer is it's an important area that we want to bring forward. And what we've done is that we've set out a whole idea of why don't we work as a team? Why don't we kind of pull together all the projects that are in our area and work as a unit and share knowledge, share understanding? And we've done that. We started the whole process off in 2020. And we don't see the idea of working in silo as being great. We see it better that we all share knowledge and understanding and cross-relate. I think we do a lot better. And that basis means that we come out with results of our projects for the benefit of obviously the patient, the physicians, the caregivers, all along the line, because we're working as a team. And that's the principle we're working from. So I think if we can change the next slide, please. If we continue with this process, I think beyond the life of all our projects, we continue to cluster, we're going to make better results for those who we're trying to serve. So that's part of the thinking behind the formation of the cluster. And as I said, we were formed in 2020. which is very, very good at this stage. So under the cluster, we have, we look at many areas. We look at the whole area, the concept, right through to delivery. We cover many technologies from AI to federal learning, artificial intelligence, wearables, checkbox. But it's the collaboration between the projects which is making the difference. And we're looking at many aspects from the quality of life to the clinical, technical, and also business issues. And I think business issues are becoming very important because if we don't move our results into the marketplace, then what happens? They stay in the lab. So we're trying to break a lot of things. And by doing that, we bring in many, many different perspectives. We bring in business perspectives, we bring in clinical perspectives, and we bring in technical perspectives as well. And that's all come together under the cluster. So we don't work in silo. Here are some of the areas which we're looking at, including breast, which we are today, and prostate and melanoma. They're all there. So all these projects work in many aspects, and we share knowledge and understanding. And that's the principle we're working off. Yvette, next slide, please. So what do we look at? We look at many areas: depression, anxiety, cancer treatment, the quality of life. So there's quite a lot of issues in there, but we all share a common understanding. And we're trying to bring that knowledge in together as one unit, and we share from each other the knowledge and experience. And therefore the common cross-fertilization is the key issue, and the collaboration is very, very important what we're trying to achieve. If we go next slide, please. So these are the projects. As you can see, there are 11. We started off initially in 2020 as 3. So we approached Menhar and we approached O'Connor-Leaf and said, look, why don't we work together and find out where the common understanding is and try to share knowledge and understanding for the benefit of each project. And that's the principle that we work at. And it's spread, work that out. And many of them since China's we now 11. If you take a look at the BD4QUL, this looks at a whole area of using big data, and they're looking at neck and cancer kind of area. So that's their technology being applied there. Then we take a look at Menhar. Menhar actually doesn't fit in the sense of the traditional, they're actually a RISE project, but yet they're looking at depression markers. So they come in there as well, and mental health. So they fit with us in there as well. And then we have the likes of O'Connor-Leaf, which is similar to FATE in the sense that it's looking at lung and breast cancer, but with O'Connor-Leaf, we're looking at the area of the older patients, so to speak. And with FATE, we're looking very much so using artificial intelligence and federated learning, looking at breast and lung cancer. So there are actually 11 there altogether in there, including PERSIST. And we work and we periodically meet and we share knowledge and understanding from our individual projects. Next slide, please. So what's ongoing? Here's some examples. If we can just stop it there. What we have is the Media Minds 5. This is actually an activity that we plan to do this December. The reason being is that all the work that we're doing is fantastic and is great, and the knowledge is wonderful. But what happens at the end of the project? Does it stay in the lab or does it get out there? So this is what we're doing. We're now bringing in what we call business angels, and they will meet with us and they will talk to us, and we will try to encourage them, not just at this specific meeting, but thereafter for future projects too, to bring them in early. Why? Because by having that knowledge and understanding, they can share their understanding of how to break into the market. And this is part of it. So this is a follow-on from the Media Minds 3 that we held last September, and we're looking forward to do this. So the idea behind this specific area is that we will have lots of projects, the 11, possibly all of them, and they're going to do a little pitch to the business angels and say, this is our project and this is how we're going to get the market. And they're going to listen to what the VCs and business angels may have after that. And they may want to collaborate beyond the life of that project. That's always an option that's out there. But we're breaking the mold of staying in the lab. The results don't make it out there. So we're now working through that. And my intention is that perhaps for next year that we'll embrace more with these people and we go forward. Also, we're doing a lot of areas to do with podcasts, and we've highlighted 3 there. And this is one that the first one is called the Better Practice Guide Initiative, which we're doing in the cluster at this moment of time, and it's looking at trying to identify what we call common data sets across all the projects. This is pretty important. Now, the Better Practice Guide Initiative came about through the question of standardization in a project called No Fear. And what we're trying to do is empower the individuals to go forward. So this whole Better Practice Initiative Guide will be very much so a mechanism that will sit side by side to standardization, and we explain that later on. Then we have what we're going to do is the other area here through the ESCAPE project. And what they're doing is also going to be leading with World Institute Technology in challenging and what are the barriers that we have with AI in the healthcare sector. So we'll have a session on that in that. That's scheduled for February 2023. And then also, which is incredibly very important, and we're working at the present moment, we have to listen to the patient, understand the quality of life, and then share that knowledge, not only with those who will be in the cluster, but also those who will be participating in the podcast. Next slide, please, Eve. So you can see also the correlation of the projects are ongoing. You can see the arrows there. And what we have there is like the ESCAPE project, working with the LifeChamp project, working with the FAITH project, all coordinating. And they're developing the Better Practice Guide initiative, which is going to be, as I said earlier on, looking very much so at coming common data spaces for all of us. And so we will defining the data sets. And once that is done, then the next stage will be to tackle interoperability in a better scale. And that may be on the life of some of the projects, but we will define that. So that's in the progress as well. So go to the next slide. So for 2023, we've identified some things that we would like to do. This is work in progress, it's not fixed in stone. We really want to get more patient-based associations involved in the process. I think that's very important, not just from the beginning, but not just for the very end, but very from the beginning, right through the whole process. This is something that we perceive as very, very important. As mentioned earlier on, we will bring in more business angels and venture capitalist people into our work, not just the individual part, but collectively as a unit, where we try to bridge the gap between developing fantastic technologies, going through some wonderful case studies, but getting over this hurdle, and that's something that we're pressing on. Likewise, we plan going forward with a number of other areas. The Media Minds event is something that we want to continue with. We've now heading towards a fifth one, which is pretty important. We want to do more work in clinical trials and share it between all the projects. There's so much we can do. Yes, the podcast will continue. And tentatively, we're hoping to have a big event based in Dublin in April 2023. We will continue with the Better Practice Guide initiative. More will probably come out of it. And we'll also have a white paper. And the white paper is trying to help policymakers in understanding what we all are doing in the cancer survivorship space to try to help the Commission go forward with areas that they need to go to because we're living it, we're seeing the issues, and we have to share that with them. So I think this is pretty important as well. Next slide. Okay, so here's some example snapshot. You can see we formed very much so the cluster in 2020. There are 3 projects involved, which you mentioned earlier on. The Commission heard about us during that year. We've moved forward. We had a first case of Media Minds event, which is really a workshop. We're dealing very much so in healthcare. We then moved forward and we brought in other projects, joined LifeChamp, Quality Top, Clarify, very, very interesting. All came aboard, all in the cancer survivorship space. And then we started the process of getting there to the market. And we held a business acumen event last September for the very first time. And from that, we realized there's more we need to do here. And we're using that knowledge to go forward. In 2022, we moved forward and we had a first public event. And that was held in February 2022. And PERSIST were very well involved in that specific project, very grateful for that. And we challenged very much so, how can new technology better support patients? And in there, all the projects in the cluster came together. And we had also a wonderful roundtable effect, which I'll show you the next slide. And also the European Commission got involved in that area. Okay. We've also see some of the feedback we got here coming from people is from Barbara gave from the European Commission very much so to explain to us about the cancer mission they're on, which is very good. Kathy, who is very well known and well respected, gave an understanding from the importance of the clinical trials, which is very, very clear. I think Garrett Murphy, who's an oncologist in County Waterford, she very much so brought about the importance of AI technology in particular can help those in mental health suffering and so forth. So we learn from that. From the engagement of that specific mind, you can see there's a number of items here that came out of it. And the one thing that is very important to say is that technology supports clinics and does not replace them. And that's something that we have to accept, that the technology is there. to support the physician, is there to help the patient, is not going to replace them. But what we got to do, and this is going to take time, we got to trust the technology, trust the results that are coming out. So that's in the pipeline as well. A second thing we brought out, which is very important, has been echoed here earlier on by Alberto. We're breaking away from relying on only the electronic health record. So we're moving away further from that. And likewise, in a number of projects and the better practice guide initiative we're speaking about today is also addressing that whole area. So collectively as a unit, we're going to share knowledge and understanding to try to come out with results out there. So I think these are some of the important issues that came out there. And without question, psychological behavior and social factors can really influence the patient and the disease process. And we're learning from that how we can use that knowledge to strengthen very much so all of our projects in the cluster. So these are the recommendations that came out of here. Next slide. So you want to know more about the cluster. Here's a summary. We have a number of details there, all these links. We have videos, we have press releases, we have the Media Minds event, which Anna was very involved in, with Raquel as well. And we got a number of areas there. So please, you're very welcome. I'm sure you can get access to this presentation and go view it and look at it for yourselves as well. Next slide. And that's me. Thank you all very much for it, and look forward to talking later on.
Just a clarification for me. I was just asking the colleagues how's the cluster funded? Is it by the individual projects or it's a separate project for the cluster?
Presently, it's funded through the FATE project. It was never intended to take this up the way it did, in the sense that sometimes you got to let your mind move a little bit, and when you see an opportunity to bring things together, you grasp it. So we saw the concept of very much so of not working in silo, learning, sharing, exchanging knowledge and understanding, and then bringing this together and building at it. This cluster will continue well beyond the life path of all the projects. Even when the projects end, this will continue on. This will be an entity in its own right, trying to bring back the knowledge to strengthen the outcomes. But having been a patient of, having been a cancer sufferer twice, I understand its value. And therefore, I think what we can do is continue this cluster beyond the life project. And we will. This will happen.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think it's time to go to the next round of presentations before we start the discussion. We have hopefully online Emmanuel Huck, the Program and Policy Officer at DG Connect, European Commission. We have also Geert Tienpont, the Managing Director of IHD, and Alexandra, sorry for this name, probably it will be difficult for me to pronounce it, Kaczmarek, the Policy Manager of Digestive Cancers Europe. Hopefully, I hope I said the right way your name. So, Emmanuel, she's online. Okay, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm just realizing, okay, I have the share option now. Good, because I did not have it before. So let me just please. Yes, this one. Can you see something? No?
No.
Maybe not. Ah, voilà.
Ah, yes, now.
Okay, I'll start like this. Can you see the full screen now?
Yes, perfectly.
Very good. Oh, sorry, I suppose not. Very good. Okay, I trust that you can see this. Okay, very good. So yes, I'm Emmanuel Huck, Program Policy Officer at the European Commission, DG Connect, and more precisely the unit responsible for e-health, well-being, and aging. So today I'll focus on digitalization and health, and in particular cancer. Voilà. So there are many advances in technology and in data sharing. There are various digital technologies that, together with data exchange, can support innovation. High performance computing, AI, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, etc., help collect, store, process, reuse, link, and communicate the data. It has become, data has become an essential resource for growth, jobs, and social progress. A smart use of that can be a source of decisive competitive progress and advantage, and the end users are in the center. And that's very important for the ICT services and solutions to follow that principle to be successful. Now, yeah, the context is still the communication that the Commission adopted in 2018 on the digital transformation of health and care, with three main axes of strands of work: getting citizens access to their health data wherever they are in the EU, developing the health data available for research, and digital tools and services. Now, focusing on cancer, digital technologies have value across the care pathway, from prevention, early diagnosis and detection and diagnosis of medical conditions, to treatment, and then monitoring and increasing the quality of life after treatment, facilitating the work of carers and enabling more efficient ways of organizing and delivering health and care services. So this is very much the focus of PERSIST, like we have heard. DigiConnect has supported and will in the next years to come a number of actions to facilitate the development of innovative digital technologies for healthcare, and in particular development based on solutions based on artificial intelligence. So we will not only be funding research and innovation actions from Horizon Europe program, but also from digital program. So that's the deployment of infrastructures that facilitate facilitating the access to data, like cancer imaging data or genomics data, necessary for the development of the technologies. Also, we are supporting testing and experimentation facilities for AI that will allow innovators to test the solutions technologies in close to real life conditions, and networking activities as well for hospitals, researchers, and innovators. So you've probably heard of the European Health Data Space that came, the proposal for regulation came this year. So among others, it will facilitate the sharing of health data. Now, I've mentioned the digital program, and here you can see 18 million for cancer imaging. So here are examples of AI-based tools and methods for advancing personalized prevention, early detection and diagnosis, treatment, and the monitoring and quality of life of patients, such as the European Cancer Imaging Initiative. I'll come back to it. So I mentioned before the genome data. So this is the 1+ million genomes EU initiative that we are supporting. And among the use cases, cancer is there. And I'm getting to the end of my presentation. So the European Cancer Imaging Initiative that aims at bringing together some of the cancer-specific tasks with some of the horizontal actions that DG Connect is taking to support digital ecosystems. The idea is to develop an EU atlas of cancer-related images, making anonymized images accessible to a wide range of stakeholders across the ecosystem of hospitals, researchers, as well as innovators. It will follow the proposal to establish European health data space that I've mentioned, and will involve the planned testing and experimentation facilities to link the data to tools such as high-performance computing, AI, and supported by digital innovation hubs. It will further improve personalized medicine and support innovative solutions, thanks to a greater accuracy and reliability in minimally invasive diagnosis and follow-up of treatments. So this initiative will build on the results of the projects that we are supporting from the research program. Voilà. Thank you very much, and let's discuss later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We have actually patient representative and also representative of IHD here in the room. So yes, the IHD representative.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So indeed, my name is Geert, a data believer working for IHD, or the European Institute for Innovation through Health Data. I'm replacing Deepak Kara. He was first invited to be here, but unfortunately, it wasn't possible for him to be here. I will do my best to replace him as good as possible. I would split my talk in two parts. Let's start with some brain refreshments, what we perhaps already all know. And the second part are a few wake-up calls I would like to share with you. And is it possible to present my presentation? Okay. I try to continue without, but perhaps the last slides are the most important, so then we will have the presentation. So, as I mentioned, it was Deepak who was invited, and he helped he assisted in the Alcan Global Summit. He helped in presenting there and also writing the event report. And please allow me to underline some important findings of that report, is that commitment is needed to embed optimal use of data across all facets of cancer care. And that has been shown also by the previous speaker. And also important to know that data should be considered as an investment. A lot of investment needs to be done. And indeed, data drives innovation, but also innovation should drive health data. And there is still a lot of work to do in order to get the best out of health data with respect to all stakeholders. In the first place, of course, the patient.
Just to ask you, because we haven't received any presentation from you, do you have it by any chance
I sent
somewhere?
it yesterday.
Pardon?
I did send it yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
5-year transfer. I think taking the time into account, let's continue. I try to speak as clear as possible so that you can all follow. Also, 5 key areas where investment still should be made is the following: better data quality and systems that enable quality data capture. We also need to invest in infrastructures and the good governance models, the implementation of interoperability standards, tools and apps for patients, and data literacy. So these are areas where we need to invest. And luckily, yes, we have the opportunity and obligation to use health data. And I was hoping to see the slide on the screen because the characters are too small, but we have a lot of data resources, care pathways, mobile devices. I think the previous slides have shown that enough. We have clinical applications, social networks. So a lot of data is available that we can use and that we must use. And indeed, there are the slides. The next one, please. Yeah, and indeed, the patients want to use digital health tools, and there you see a lot of them. I'm not going to list them all now. Next, please. And indeed, we managed to create models of all kinds of data we have. We have data at the individual level, data at the population level, and also big health data. So there's a lot of data available. Next one, please. You may continue. Click, click, click. And thanks to the European Commission and all other initiatives, there is a lot of initiatives taking place to share data. And we have a lot of federated networks where we can move data from hospitals to those who want to use the data for several reasons. But I forgot to mention you in my introduction. Some of you see on the slide EHR4CR. That was an IMI-funded project. And our institute, IHD, is a result of that project. I like to mention it now because we're here at the European building. Okay, so a lot is available, and I think most of us are aware about that. But I would like to do now a few wake-up calls. When talking with colleagues, when going to conferences, meetings, etc., I miss, and not only myself, but also my colleagues, and especially in the context of reusing data. And I hope one day we don't need to use the term reuse. It will be normal use of data for everything. One important word that is going back in a lot of meetings and events is trust. We still miss a lot of trust. It's strange that we still miss it. Not too fast, please. Can you? Yeah. GDPR, I think, if I may say that GDPR, as an example, is well implemented in hospitals for the daily use of data. But as soon we start to talk about reusing data, and especially when we want to cross borders with that data, it becomes more complex. Yeah. The European health data space, nice, but there are also a lot of challenges we need to work on. What is the maturity of our EHRs in the hospitals? Is it good or bad? But still a lot of work needs to be done there. And another one I personally find very important is the quality of health data. And I saw the word quality in previous slides, quality of life care, etc. But the health data is a topic we do not address enough. It's a dynamic complexity. It's nowadays a science on its own. And we are not aware about how good or how bad is our data. And garbage in is garbage out. And when I'm thinking about artificial intelligence, yeah, when I was a programmer many years ago, AI was very, how to say, it was the algorithms that make the power of AI, but nowadays it's also the data that's available. But if we do not know the quality of our data, can we trust the outcome of AI? We do not know. And I hope one day some people can prove I'm wrong. I hope that will be the case, but I'm afraid. Yeah. And especially as already seen in many slides today, data sharing from one system to another system, and we're going towards an API economy. Is the GDPR in place? That's all important. And perhaps another slide, 2 other slides I would like to share with you. The next one, please. So I mentioned trust, and once again, trust. We must trust. And it's not about missing the goodwill of all the players. And at the bottom right corner, you see, if you have a helicopter view on our ecosystem, you have data providers, data facilitators, and data users. There are many data providers that are willing to share data. There are many users that want to use the data, and you have a lot of ICT companies. They are building lovely ICT platforms with the best technologies, with the best engineers, etc. And they are aiming to have a trustful platform, but we still do not trust it. Yeah. So that's important. That results in business opportunities and timing. Sometimes it takes more than 1 year to negotiate a contract between a hospital and an SME. 1 year, you're losing 1 year. So there's a huge need for an independent information governance assessment. And yes, we have it. So, IHD has developed an assessment based on 142 criteria that allows us to assess, to audit an ICT company, how they are dealing with that data. It's not about the quality of the data with this application, but how does it fit all the contracts, etc. I know yesterday there was a launch of also an equivalent initiative. There is a difference because that initiative is GDPR in all sectors, not only healthcare. We strongly believe it's also needed in healthcare. And we tackle 142 criteria, where that other initiative tackle less criteria. So there is a difference. So, but there is still a lot of work to do to build trust in our ecosystem. And quality seals are one important tool to gain that trust. Yeah, go last slide, and I stop talking. Health data, quality. Once again, we do not underline it enough. There are a lot of misunderstandings. It's a science on its own. Again, it's a dynamic complexity. We as ICT, and I'm an ICTer, we think it's about changing some values and fields. It's much more than that. We give tutorials about the quality of health data, how we should tackle it, how we can improve it, etc., how to measure the quality of data. And for example, to underline how important this, in November we organize, or we co-organize, a conference in Porto, a 2-day event, which is only dealing with the quality of health data. So it's a very, it's important, and we do not give enough attention to that. A lot of opportunities with health data, but please do not forget the quality of our data. So my wake-up call.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, we go to our last speaker, Alexandra Kaczmarek, the policy manager of Digestive Cancers Europe. If you can share your thoughts after listening to our presentations and questions on the table and challenges that we have with all the information technologies and the projects running around. And, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I have some slides too, so if you wouldn't mind sharing them, I'll try not to bore you with them by now, because I know we're running quite late. So maybe as the beginning, thank you, of course, for the introduction and for the invitation here. I have to say, when we got the invitation, we were like, "Oh, what can we talk about?" Because it all sounds a bit, high tech for us. But we try our best, and we do have, of course, some reflections regarding this, because all of the speakers said that the patient should be at the center, and that's what our reflections will be about. So, just to give you some background about ourselves, so we're Digestive Cancers Europe. We're a patient organization. We represent 40 national member organizations, and we represent patients, the survivors, but also the families of the survivors. So, next slide, please. And to give you a bit of background, I think we are invited here because we also represent colorectal cancer, which was one of the case studies for your project. But we wanted to give you an overview also of all the other cancers that we have in the digestive cancers field in Europe. And unfortunately, when you look at the colorectal cancer, the survivorship is quite good. But we shouldn't forget, and we always should remember, that for the other digestive cancers, especially if you look at the pancreas cancer, you have a number of new cases, a number of deaths. And the reason why we have so many deaths in a lot of those cancers is because of the late diagnosis. So as much as we focus on survivorship, and it's extremely important for us, we shouldn't forget that if we had even more EI and even more innovation, even more technology, we could probably save some of those lives in the other cancers. And now moving on to the topic of your conference or event today. We heard a lot about the security of health data. So we have some reflections about it as well, of course, as patients. You said in your presentations before there should be building trust. And it is true, we have to build trust in the digital ecospace, but we also shouldn't forget that it's all about the risk benefit analysis when it comes to the end users. When you think about it, for example, of Google and all the GAFA companies, we all know we shouldn't trust them, but at the end of the day, we all use them. So I think if the benefit outweighs the risk for the patients as well, there will be that trust and we can overcome that. So that shouldn't be the main obstacle for us. Another topic we heard about is respect for privacy and transparency, but I also think we should be a bit honest about the data as well. If we cannot fully anonymize it, we should just say it. It will be pseudo-anonymized. We shouldn't say that it's possible in the secondary use of data, for example, that it will be fully anonymized. If it's not, just say it, and I think a lot of the end users will accept it. In terms of harmonization, implementation is something that you touched upon as well. We believe we need to have guidelines for interpretation and alignment for common understanding. And we can already see it in GDPR implementation. There are different implementations depending on who interprets it. So I think that's very important. And also we think moving forward with our digital ecosystem, we need financial resources to build that security. I think we all know that the infrastructures in certain parts of Europe are better than the others, the digital infrastructures, the health digital infrastructures. So that we should always be trying to have a common playing field. In terms of the access and security discussions, that we say we should have access to it, but at the same time we want security. Access, when you think about it, it's something about openness. Security is about closing. So I think there needs to be a balancing act done in those discussions, and when you design those products, that there will always be some kind of a risk. But as long as you're transparent about the risk and the benefit outweighs the risk, I think we can move forward and all benefit from data. Of course, as a patient organization, we see that all this digital transformation and going forward and going very digital, we should empower ourselves. Listening to the presentations, we were trying to follow and we're trying to follow as much, but I think we all need a bit of education about what this all means for us as patients, as end users, but also as healthcare professionals. So moving forward, some guidelines on data sharing, data security, and the rights in terms of what my data rights are as a patient. So the patients are enabled and empowered to manage the digital self online. And that also brings me to digital literacy, where we still see the East-West divide in terms of at least our digestive cancers, but we would not like to see the same East-West divide when it comes to the infrastructure that I talked about earlier. So all the member states should have the ability to have the same digital infrastructure. And in terms of, going forward in terms of security, I think what comes out of many of the presentations is that it's so much out there. And I think we already have the European Principles for Ethics in Digital Health done by the French presidency. So our hope is that moving forward, all those discussions, all the stakeholders take a view around what's already out there and move on and build on what's already existing instead of building new guidelines, new white papers, and kind of, repeating the wheel. Next slide, please. And then in terms of big data, I really enjoyed the presentation talking about we don't work in silos, because I had a quick look and there's a 52 health data related projects funded or initiatives funded by the EU. And I think our hope is as patients, and I think as basically as taxpayers, all of us, is that those projects don't duplicate themselves and they really build on each other. And at least that you are able to talk between projects in the same data language and not develop new things. So I think that's one of the things. And looking from our perspective, we have so many initiatives. We have European Cancer Information System, we have inequalities registries, now we're going to have European Health Data Space, then we have all the European projects, and it's all great. But we need to have kind of, a nice view and no duplication. And I think that also touches on your presentation about the meaningful use of digital health data and avoiding garbage in, garbage out, also from the patient's perspective, because you mentioned you had some of the dropouts of some of the patients. And I think a lot of the patients, we are all patients, but also, high quality educated people, and you find some, IT geeks being patients themselves, and they would, I think, definitely appreciate that the quality of data. In terms of the big data, I think to ensure our participation and kind of the acceptance on the population level, we have to have a clear purpose. So in the proposal, for example, there's for the secondary use of data in European health data space, the proposal, I think, as it stands for the secondary data, you can use it for commercial purposes. But I think for commercial purposes, is it really empowerment? Because commercial purposes can be very broad. And what we see with our patients is that they're very willing to use it for the health commercial purposes, but maybe not so much for banking commercial purposes. So I think that kind of, being more granular in the proposition and in which box you could tick when you give your data, I am happy to give it to the healthcare provider, but maybe not to Coca-Cola. So I think that would be our ask, which would empower and probably enable more data to be shared. And also across Europe, we are looking forward, almost. We are looking forward to the harmonized ethical approval process. And of course, there's a big question of legal responsibility for AI. If the doctor takes advice of the AI, will it be the manufacturer or the producer? How are we going to regulate it? Will the responsibility lay on the doctor who takes the advice of the AI? Will it be the original code, or will you can't actually can't put legal responsibility on AI because it develops itself? So I think that's a question that, at least if we have open discussions about it, would encourage more data sharing. Because if we don't have open discussions about it, there'll always be lots of conspiracy theories and loads of fake news as well. So I think moving on, I think the next slide. Our reflection, and when I was thinking about the project, was taking all the constraints that we mentioned in our reflections, could we actually be even more ambitious in the architecture that we are working on? So in terms of data in, we have patient data in, we have data out usually, and it's how it's defined in the legislation as well, is for policy and regulators for secondary use, researchers, innovators, this will probably be mainly companies, and better patient outcomes. And that is very good wording. However, if we somehow manage to build a European health data space that will give the information back to patients, not excluding, but being complementary to the already proposed, the ones on the above. So if we could give patients data on the trends in the country, on the comparisons between countries, on the latest science on the cancer, and on connecting with other patients. So if we somehow manage to be kind of build even bigger and even greater infrastructure for patients, when they put the data in, they also get data out for themselves in a way. So they benefit from it as well. Because if that is not part of the interface they're going to have in European health data, we will still all remain at the mercy of Dr. Google. So the patients, once they get diagnosed, they'll probably Google the cancer. And as much as the associations as ourselves are trying to be on the top of the Google rankings, as you know, the algorithm will probably push us back. So I think that, if we don't fill in that gap, then we will still have the situation where the patient puts in all the good data, he's diagnosed, but at the end of the day, he goes back to Dr. Google to find the results of, what's my cancer, how can I cure it, and all that. So I think with that, I can go to the next slide. And just to say in short that for us, the digital ecosystem should be patient-centered, of course, ensure policy and data cohesion, and also make health data accessible for all. That means the education programs, kind of empowering patients, and protect the misuse of health data. So we know that the intention of the regulators is very good, but that there's always a possibility for kind of the data going wrong in a way. So thank you for your attention, and you can also find us on social media, on the internet, and so I hope that was useful.
Very useful indeed. I think you outlined many of the issues that are important for patients, and this is what we see every day in our work with patients as well. From cancer, and not only cancer, we see consistency in some of the needs that patients have, consistency in some of the worries that patients have. Of course, specifics in each disease, including cancer and digestive cancer, rare cancer, so whatever cancers we talk, but still there are some patterns that are quite similar across diseases, and probably we should start with them to address them first when we talk about digitalization. We have a question in the online platform, which from where is coming the question? The name. It's from Martina Rimelle. So the question is, do we have a secure platform on which interdisciplinary physicians, like members of a variety of teams for the patients, including the physician, the general practitioner, for example, other healthcare experts, can exchange information and participate in joint decisions for the best treatment, or the best or what is best for the patient. So if somebody from the partners or the invited guests or the commission is aware of such a platform that exists and creates these opportunities, would be great. Somebody can... Are you aware of such platforms?
And truth, I'm not. I think the idea is solid. It makes sense, but I think there's a lot of work still to be done before we get to that stage. I think what we've demonstrated today, these discussions, is that we're in that direction. I think the work we're doing towards having the patients through knowledge and capacity, which we showed today, the idea of the cluster is part of it. But I think it's down the road. I don't believe it's just there at the moment.
Actually, a very interesting idea to bring all the experts of the patient in one virtual room to see where they can share data and whether they can improve somehow the care and not work in silos. I have also questions regarding the future of PERSIST, and but also you presented some data about this 90% patients who are using the technology, which is, I think, a very good number already, and quite surprising for me that it's so high percentage of usage of the application. So congratulations on that. But I'm also interested to see whether you have preliminary results also from your research on how this technology is influencing patients. Probably it's too early to have any significant results, but if you can open a little bit the curtain, and if you have any preliminary, at least trends that you have seen there, would be great to know. And when we expect these results throughout the and with time.
The result I'm expecting pretty soon. So in a couple of months, we will have all the results of PERSIST. There are quite some results related to depression. So the IT specialist team working in the University of Maribor has already could identify depression in some patients. We could identify also that it's a very amazing, but that physical activity is not the same relating to countries. So we could identify that Belgium cancer survivors are not walking very much, and for one reason that we don't know. So we will have to investigate that a little deeper pretty soon. And the other kind of result are going to be shown really to be sure, because we are really currently we are looking for all those results, and we will publish them in a scientific publication at the end of the project.
I'm afraid I can't hear.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
Thank you.
I just was saying, I was just encouraging everyone to put questions if you have any, also for you, if you have any questions to the participants. But I wanted to ask whether this project currently is developing an application, for example, and we're talking about economies and the future of APIs, and we're talking about cooperation with different projects, etc. The problem with technologies is that it's developing so fast that at the time when technology is out there and rolled out, probably it's outdated anymore, and it has to be updated with new developments, etc. So is it possible, even at this stage, kind of through APIs or other ways, this technology to be integrated in other platforms, let's say, and vice versa? Is it open, and are you planning to integrate other existing technologies that might be a bit more advanced, or those who are promising, for example, to be also available there? I know that it is research, and in research it's not very good to open the doors or to change environment very often, but still might be very useful for other platforms to interact with the existing one.
Yes, actually, this has been considered in the project. We have been working, well, first taking into account interoperability, which is one of the main factors in order to make the data and everything that we have generated that could be scalable, that could be incorporated for other scenarios or use cases. The technology has been developed following a modular approach. Actually, Daedalus, who is the provider, technical leader in the project, and also the provider of the platform, the data and artificial intelligence platform, they are following a paradigm in which they want to have the Open Health Connect, is the name of the way in which they work, and they are using these APIs in order to provide scalability, basically. So the platform can be used, can incorporate new, for instance, artificial intelligence services, or any other integration with any other source of data, any other applications that we want to have. So yeah, this is considered in the project. We have been trying to apply this concept of modularity, of interoperability, of connectivity with other platforms in order to make it as scalable as possible. So
good. And it's the same question in terms of East and West difference. For example, is it open even now to be translated in other languages and used probably from your colleagues on other projects from the cluster and beyond? So I don't know whether somebody can answer this question, but is it available now, or we will wait, enter the project when it's going to be available? And then with this timing and outdating of technologies, probably might be challenging.
Well, actually, this was one of the main concerns during the project, and I think it has been very hard to harmonize the model, especially in those tasks that were related to language, the interfaces of the applications, also the natural language processing modules, and everything that implied using different languages. Especially, well, in this project we had very heterogeneous languages as well. And it has been a big challenge, but I don't know, maybe Marcela, can you illustrate and tell us like which has been the biggest barriers, because you have been involved in the work package related to the clinical study, how was this process to translate and to, yeah.
You turn it off and I turn. I think, yeah, it was like this. So yeah, indeed, it took quite a time to translate all the questionnaires, the ones that were not already validated in the 4 languages and 5 languages actually of PERSIST project, because PERSIST is for hospital, but 5 languages, since in Latvia they speak Latvian and Russian. So all the questionnaires were performed in different languages. In addition, the application also were performed in the languages, because the patient needed to understand what it's all about. The same for the application dedicated to physicians. So this is quite heavy. And for instance, when the questionnaires were not validated in scientific literature, we need to translate or to set up questionnaires that have to be validated by 3 persons. So this takes time, yeah, and patience. That is in relation with languages. So in relation then the more IT part of language, well, there were many things that were code, and then of course we needed to understand sometimes that something that was understood by a partner like A for another was understood like B. So this also took time, but we managed.
Yeah, I will add that, for instance, in everything which is related to technology and language, there are plenty of libraries who can be helpful to translate, to generate a speech, for instance, in the case of the conversational bot. But as Marcela said, always we need a validation, and this implies engaging patients, involving patients in this validation. For instance, for the what you say, someone can understand A where it's saying B. So this is taking time, and it can be a barrier for the transferability of the results to other environments. So maybe we will be able to apply this technology or this platform, the same model, in Germany, in France. Well, in France they have French, in Belgium, so it will be possible, but in other European countries, in other countries in the world. But we will require this some time in order to engage patients and get the technology validated, because otherwise it won't be usable, it won't be acceptable by the cancer survivors or the patients, and it can be a problem, obviously, because the technology doesn't make sense if it's not helping the final user. So usability, I think, and user experience validation will be an important task in this process.
In the cluster work that we're doing at the moment, we've got this, what I mentioned earlier on, the big data, sorry, the whole area of the data common sets, where we're going about doing it by getting all the projects to kind of find out what are the common data sets, be it the patient activities or patient monitoring for all of them. And we're focused very much on the cancer survivorship area. And the whole concept behind it is that if we as 11 projects work as an entity, we come up with something that's of value. And then what we want to do is bring that value to the outside world and see where we can connect with. So it doesn't become an entity in its own right. It's actually part of the wider ecosystem. And I think this is very important that what we're doing in this project, well, in the cluster sector, we're looking specifically on the 11 projects and then gradually moving out to see where it fits. And I think eventually we're all going to come where there's going to be a lot more of connectivity along the way, and things will get better in time. So I think this is part of what we're doing. I agree with what you're saying.
Good. Any other questions, clarifications? I know that the project is still ongoing, so soon expect the final result and to see how we can benefit of similar technology, whether they are used by patients. Actually, probably we can continue this conversation afterwards, but I'm very much interested to see how many patients were answering all these questions. Was it challenging or not? Was it overwhelming for patients at a certain point? Because you said we are sending many questions to them, and if that's really taking lots of time to the patients, and they are already quite heavily overwhelmed with everything else that they have to do. This might be kind of barrier for some of them. So many questions I have personally, but hopefully by the end of the project we will have more answers than questions. And if we don't have anyone else who wants to put a question, I think it's time. Actually with 25 minutes delay to finish with this session. And yeah, thank you very much. And we couldn't show actually the video at the end. The technical problem still exists, but we will send it to everyone. It's a commitment also from the MEP, and also highlighting some of the issues that they have on their political agenda that we should consider as well. But on the other hand, also quite welcoming to all these projects and research that's going on in Europe. So you will receive that via your emails, and it will be also on our platforms, because it's really nice that we have this political support at the end, allowing us to be here and to listen to what everyone has to say in the room. Thank you very much also to the Commission and to all the speakers who have been very helpful and committed to this debate. Thank you.